15 years into being a photographer, I still experience imposter syndrome from time to time. So if that's you too, I'm just gonna like break it down in this video about how you can maybe overcome or just walk through imposter syndrome, especially as a new photographer. Hi, my name is Katie. I'm a brand photographer based out of Dallas, Texas, and I help newer photographers get their businesses set up properly so that they can turn their passion into profits and not just an expensive hobby. So let's talk about imposter syndrome. I know when I first started out as a photographer, I was so excited. I also had no idea what I was doing, let's be honest. And I look back at some of the photos that I took back then, and I was super proud of them, so proud. But now, looking at those photos with 2024 eyes, looking back at photos from 2007, 2008, 2024 me is like, whoa, what was I thinking? What was I doing? Because let's just say that I was a little heavy-handed on the contrast and brightening, and the color was popping just a little too much. But you know, we all start somewhere, and I think that's one of the great things, or that's one of the core things that we should keep in mind when you're starting out as a newer photographer, is that you are learning day by day. And yes, imposter syndrome is gonna hit you. It is at some point. If it doesn't, let me know your secrets, because imposter syndrome is just that, like, who am I to be doing this? And like, once you start charging money, asking for money for your photography services, that's usually when imposter syndrome hits the worst, because you're like, but who would pay me to do this, and why would they give me this much money? And then once you kind of get more comfortable charging for your services, and you realize, oh, maybe I could charge more for this, you know, or like maybe you realize you're not as profitable as you thought you might be, and you're like, okay, it's time to raise your prices, and imposter syndrome is gonna hit you again. I know that it did for me. I'm like, who's gonna pay this price? And like, throughout my career as a photographer, I started out doing wedding photography, and then I did high school senior portraits, and then most recently, back in like 2019, I got into personal brand photography. And I know I kind of moved along in stages as far as like knowing what to do, knowing what to charge, and in every iteration of my business, I kind of hit the point of like, but who am I to do this? Who am I to charge for this? Like, who's gonna pay me these prices? And so the quickest way to get through imposter syndrome is to just do it. Take action on the scary thing that like freaks you out. If that's like charging, increasing your rates, if that is, you know, changing up like your packages, if that's, you know, adding more services on, or offering more, adding more value to your packages, if that's reaching out to someone that you're like, oh, I would love to photograph them to add them to my portfolio, like, take that action towards the things that you want to do, and that is going to help you push through imposter syndrome. Because I would be lying if I told you that you just won't experience imposter syndrome anymore. No, it just comes up in different outfits. It comes up as a different thing as you hit different stages of your business. I remember back when I barely, you know, wanted to charge, I think I probably charged $50 for the very first session that I shot ever for money, and then I think it went up to like $150 for a really quick session. And then I remember when I said that, like, a family friend asked me to take photos of their family, and this was back in 2008, 2009, and I asked for $300, and at the time I was like, oh my god, that's so much money, and who am I to ask for this money? But and that really is just like imposter syndrome, like, lurking. Imposter syndrome comes about because you care. Like you don't want to be seen as somebody who, you know, is trying to rip somebody off as like some sleazy salesperson or, you know, somebody who's trying to rip someone off. Nobody likes that. And so if you didn't care, if like you experienced none of those, like none of that anxiety or feelings of like, oh, who am I? Or, ooh, who would pay me for this? Or I can't do that. Or, you know, just like kind of like the second guessing part of things. Like, I think it's totally normal, especially in, you know, when you're selling a service and that service is based on your art, it's based on, you know, your personal eye. I think we run into that, but we can get through it. And, you know, we can push it down. We can tell it to take a hike when we take action, when we take steps to proving not only to ourselves, but also showing our clients that yes, we can deliver on the promises that we make. And I think that's where also imposter syndrome rears its ugly head, is if we make a promise and then we're like, oh crap, can I do this? I know that earlier this year I booked a really big corporate client, the biggest one of my career so far, and I definitely felt imposter syndrome at the time. First of all, I was like, how do they find me? Like, why do they want to hire me? Who am I? And then second of all, I was like, can I do this? Like, am I equipped to deliver for this company that is going to pay me the most money I've seen in an invoice? But I did the action. You know, I made sure that all my I's were dotted and T's were crossed, and provided a level of service that, you know, to work with this client. And, you know, all the feedback I got afterward was really great. And I will not lie, during the entire thing I might have been sweating in the back of my mind that I was real nervous about it. But you can walk through and overcome imposter syndrome by taking action on those things. So this is my encouragement to you, that imposter syndrome it doesn't go away. It comes back, it rears its head, and it checks in to be like, oh, are they feeling too confident? Let's show up again. But it's okay. You can still be confident, and you can also experience imposter syndrome at the same time. But so long as you're being honest, you're taking care of your clients, and you are delivering on your promises, you're good. So if you like videos like these or need more help setting up your photography business, be sure to check the links below and check out another video.